It is my honor today to moderate our panel, Women of AFK, books based on Hello, RWBY, and Hello Neighbor. Halo, RWBY, and Hello Neighbor. AFK is an initiative at Scholastic that pulls together our array of licensed books that are tied to video and computer games. And the program's name is inspired by the acronym gamers use to alert others that they had taken a step away from the keyboard or the console. Full disclosure, I have been AFK since about 2004. I figure I have to be honest on the stage at Comic-Con. But what I make up for in depth, I compensate for in breadth. I don't game a lot these days, but I've been alive for the past few decades and experienced it from the beginning. So just a quick rundown. Early 1980s, many of you may not remember, I'm looking at Asian crowd, the TI-99 4A. Used to plug it into the TV, I played Tunnels of Doom on that. Mid-1980s, the Apple IIe and the Apple II, I played Winnie the Pooh and the 100-Acre Wood and the original Oregon Trail. Late 80s, the NAS, Super Mario Bros. 3, of course. Early 90s on the Sega Genesis, Cool Spot. Yes! All right. Sonic the Hedgehog split screen, that changed my world. And Super Nintendo Street Fighter 2. In the mid-90s, on either a 286 or a 386 PC, I used to play Star Wars X-Wing. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was supposed to be working in my father's store, that's what I used the work computer for. In college, on the N64, GoldenEye, and Mario Karts, and after graduating, Sims 1 and 2 on the computer, and Grand Theft Auto Vice City, which is where I went AFK. But I did have students when I was a teacher that would write me essays on how to beat the game. So I would like to introduce our panelists. And right next to me, we have Chloe Fraboni, Senior Editor of Scholastic. All right, Carly Ann West, author of Hello Neighbor, Missing Pieces. Lindsay Jones, voice actor for Ruby, Rose, and Ruby. And Cassandra Rose Clark, author of Halo Battleborn. So maybe we just work our way down with the authors very quickly. If you just explain a little bit, quick synopsis of what your book is, and then we'll get into questions. Go ahead, Carly.
Sure. I'm Carly Ann West, and I'm writing the Hello Neighbor series, which is fantastic and super fun to work on. The synopsis is essentially there is a boy named Mickey who lives across the street from a house occupied by the Peterson family, and their neighbor is super sketchy, and he is trying to figure out what's going on across the street and winds up in a pickle. Extended pickle. Yeah, he's breaking and entering, basically.
Thank you.
For me, I am voicing Ruby, and I'm excited for Volume 6 and this new book coming out, but that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
So Halo Battleborn is the first YA Halo novel, which is super cool. I'm really excited I got to write it. In terms of the plot, I think the best way to describe it is actually the way Microsoft pitched it to me, which is that it is Red Dawn, if you remember that movie in the 80s, and also recently, set in the Halo universe. So basically you have a group of kids, they live in Meridian, and they are there when the Covenant attack, and they are kind of isolated, and so they fight back. And so that's pretty much what happens.
All of these books are excellent. So we're going to go ahead and get started with a question directed to Chloe. So this year, Scholastic launched the AFK initiative, uniting all the video game license titles under one umbrella. What's the significance of the thought process behind doing that?
So we, Scholastic had been publishing a few really popular gaming books. We published for Five Nights at Freddy's, we were publishing World of Warcraft, and we were publishing Assassin's Creed. And we sort of started looking at our gaming publishing and thinking the thing that really connects all of these, very disparate universes is that they all have really great stories at their heart. Great stories, great characters, immersive worlds, and we realized that, great games also tell great stories. And the best way, for us to really serve the fans is to expand those universes into new stories, explore new characters or characters that maybe people want to know more about, And so that's sort of the conceit behind AFK, is creating more of those really quality stories that are outside of, the game, but still immersed in the gaming world.
And being a librarian, the gaming and libraries has been something that's really picked up. So it's, for me, it's exciting to see the books, that are cross-pollinate and getting back and forth. The title of this panel is Women of AFK. Why is it important to highlight the women that are behind this initiative? We'll start with you, and then if anybody else wants to.
Sure. I mean, for me, it's that some of the most the greatest characters in video games of all time have been women. I mean, we have Zelda, from, going from the past forward, Samus, Zelda, and then going on to today where we have new heroes like Aloy and Tracer and Sylvanas, and it's really just been, great as a gamer, as a child growing up with these characters. And I think something I've learned as I've gone on is that their stories matter, their perspectives matter, and I think the best way we get representation out there is to highlight female voices and female stories.
So, I think just building off of that too, in my lifetime alone, I'm sure everyone else can speak to it too, there's been so much change in this perception of video gaming as being a male-oriented subject. And there is still a stigma that is kind of prevalent, but there's been so much progress in making sure that those female voices are heard. And especially like the work that I do with video games too, I'm like, well, we've been present, and now I'm excited that that's being reflected in a lot of media separate from video games, but still connected to the IPs.
Thank you. And also I find sometimes that the experience of playing video games very similar for me to reading. I would draw that comparison for my students and say, if you're reading a book, wouldn't you want to be immersed? Don't you want a video game to last for several hours, and really be like a world-building experience? And so the next question I have for you guys is, you kind of started off, Chloe. What are the video games that you played? What impact have they had on your lives? Are you a gamer at all? I've already confessed.
Well, for me, I'm definitely a gamer. My dad, for a time, owned an arcade in like the mid-90s. So cool. I remember I had the Stargate arcade cabinet in my basement, which we used to always, my dad would turn off the coin thing so we could just play unlimited games, which was really fun. But then going forward, playing GoldenEye with my cousin Josh and just getting mercilessly beaten because he's 7 years older than me. And then, when I remember getting the first PlayStation, and then the PlayStation 2, was my gaming console in high school. And I remember when I played Final Fantasy X, that was it for me. And I've never looked back since. So, now I play a lot of FPS because, I feel like that's the way we've been, playing socially. So I play a lot of Overwatch and Destiny and obviously Fortnite now. And Horizon Zero Dawn, which I've been loving so much with Aloy. It's been really great. So.
I've also been AFK for some time now, but it's coming back because my son just turned 7 and he is obsessed. He just got Zelda for his Switch for his birthday. I thought he was going to faint. He was so excited. And I live in Seoul, Korea now, and gaming is alive and well in Seoul. And you can rent a multi-bong and go and game with your friends for an hour or two, and it's a lifestyle. It is incredible there. So if there's any place that I should be getting back into it, it's definitely there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you could say that pioneered esports, basically. Yeah. That's awesome. Goodness. I have been playing video games since, mid-90s. I think some of the first consoles I had were N64 and then Game Boy Color. And that brought me into video gaming as a whole. I had known people who played video games, but again, with that unfortunate sexist stigma, I was there aren't a lot of women here. I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this. So I don't know. As I grew up, I felt like I hung out with a lot of dudes who were playing video games. And so I was always a little bit of the black sheep growing up, but I still played video games. But now, high school on, it really felt again, it became more of a popular subject in general. And I guess the pop culture phenomenon kind of boosted and said, no, video games are popular for everyone. That's fine. So now I'm lucky enough to have a job where I play video games for a living. So I'm not good at a lot of them. I do get to go in and play a lot of like first-person shooters are not my forte, but I love open-world, expansive games. I always find myself going back to Skyrim, and now you mentioned Assassin's Creed. Odyssey just came out, and I was like literally trying to think about how I could play while I'm here. Is there a PC around? Anyone?
Yeah, so I have kind of an interesting relationship with video games as a kid. My parents were very strict and would not let us own a video game console, but they would let us rent one for like a week. You used to be able to rent like in, you know, whenever.
I totally
remember. From like Blockbuster. Yeah. So like so during spring break, they would go rent whatever the latest console was, and me and my brother would just like binge play video games. That was all we would do. We would fight over who got to play. So I played a lot of those like early '90s games like GoldenEye. I played a lot of like Disney video games. I remember. And then in college, I got a little more into it. I actually played a lot of Halo, which was really exciting when Scholastic reached out to me because I was like, oh, that was like my favorite video game back in the day. I also played Katamari Damacy. Those were like my two favorites. They're very different, but that was how it was. And I haven't played a lot of video games lately just because I don't have the time to do it. But I do have to say, like, writing this book and kind of getting back into the Halo world is kind of making me want to return.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was going to say, it must be incredibly, rewarding to work on Halo, having played it, such an impactful game. I was looking it up a little bit and said that Variety would call it the equivalent of Star Wars and just, the list of accomplishments out of that one. So to get to dive into that, kind of fun. What do books based on video games add to it? How does having this narrative add to the experience again?
I mean, I can start because this is, when I started at Scholastic, that was like the number one thing that I was focused on was I didn't want to do gaming books that were novelizations of your playing experience because I felt like you're playing the game, that's great. But there's so much to these worlds. So like beyond just, the really cool thing of being in the mind of the character, which is already really cool, you also get these things, you get side stories, you get, these characters that, you maybe didn't see, like for RWBY, for example, I mean, we're doing, Team Coffee, which is, a set of characters that people really loved that, didn't get as much screen time as like I would have loved to have seen. So it was really cool to like be able to expand their story. And same thing with with Hello Neighbor. They had this really great idea for what had happened before the events of the game that we got to expand on. And same thing for Halo, which the universe is already so wide and far-reaching. We got to like really dig in and explore something that hadn't really been touched on before. So yeah, I think there's a lot that gaming books add.
I think also just kind of it's an official response to a lot of fan reception to IPs too. I mean, you can find it all over the internet. There's fan fiction for literally anything that you could think of, RWBY included in Halo and Hello Neighbor. But I think about when I'm a gamer or a fan of a show, if, like, say you're interacting with an NPC, you're like, wow, that was very interesting, I'd like to hear more about them, but you're already creating headcanons for yourself, like, I don't know, or even for the character that you're playing, like, I could be walking around as Ezio, but I'm like, I'm Ezio, but I also have this backstory because I decided on that. Well, now we can kind of go more into depth and decide, okay, well, now this actually is going to be canon. We're going to make this official for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's that crossover between gaming and writing books is so tight that you're already in the fantasy. You're already thinking about it, even when you're not playing. So that is so similar to me with the experience of reading a book. It's with you after you read it, before you read it, while you're in the process of reading it. It sticks with you. The good ones stick with you. Same with the games. They stick with you. If you have a way of marrying those two and expanding on those worlds and those universes, it just seems like the best of both worlds. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, playing a video game is, in a way, it's like a form of storytelling. You're telling the story to yourself as you're playing it. And so it's a really unique medium in that sense. I also think the cool thing about books is that it can kind of show that there's more to these games for non-fans than what they might think. And I have an example. So when I have a friend who's a little older, and I told him I was writing a Halo novel, and his reaction was, oh, you're writing about a guy shooting another guy who looks exactly like the first guy. And I was like, what? That's not what the game is like. You're shooting aliens. What are you talking about? But that was his understanding of it, having not played it, just like seeing, like Master Chief figurines and stuff.
One of the guys is red and one's blue.
Right, exactly. So I was like, as a book, like I was like, that's really cool to be able to say. Actually, I mean, you could show them a game and be like, it's not like that. But even just to show them a book and say, look, there's actually characters in here. There's a lot of complicated world building, a lot of really interesting things to explore, a lot of science fiction things to explore. And so I think that's kind of cool too.
I mean, what gamer didn't grow up like trying to move your little character off the screen somewhere and they just run up against a wall? You know? And you're like, I want to see what's over there. Like, books get to show you what's off the screen. You know, it's like what your little character Link couldn't go. You know, like while you were running it.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting you mentioned that. I had a professor in library school talked about how with comics the action happens between the panels because it's a static image. So our imagination is forced to kind of say, how did we get from here to here? We go from one panel to the next. With the novelizations that are specifically being written now in recent years for children, what are some of the ways that we're seeing high quality tie-ins that go with these video games specifically for kids?
I mean, sorry, can you repeat the question?
Oh, how have video games changed in recent years, the novelizations of them? And then, thinking we were talking a little bit, I was looking at Halo, there have been a lot of novels that have been done and stuff like that, but, why are we now seeing high-quality ones that are specifically written as tie-ins for children?
I mean, for me, I think it's really the fan demand. I think there's a lot more demand of these universes, people want to learn more about this. You have these really passionate fan bases that want to know more about the world. And I think because of that, companies like Microsoft, like Blizzard, like Rooster Teeth, like Tiny Build are more open to exploring these things off the screen because the fans really want it. And I think that's something that has been growing and evolving in recent years, more so than before. So I know that's part of why I love making these books.
Yeah, I think media in general, and especially literature in this sense, is always a reflection of what's currently happening in society, and video games are a huge part of that now, especially with the, not data gap, I should say, but something like that now, especially with the emergence now of MMOs and RPGs and the connectivity that we have online. It's like this is now a universal concept of people wanting to explore more of these worlds that they're playing. And there's a connection with people across cultures as well, even through language barriers with video games. So now we get to reach into that with books.
All right, so I'm going to focus on some of the stuff with some of our authors. So looking at Carly Ann. Specifically with Hello Neighbor, how is it what is it like to work on a book with elements of the game? It's a mystery.
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
That was a dream. I mean, I can't not write a mystery. Everything that I've written up to this point has been a mystery, a thriller, a horror, or something. So even if it hadn't called for a mystery, it probably would have found its way in there.
Right.
It comes naturally, but it's also, I think, some of the most exciting kinds of writing to explore, just because especially gamers are so good at finding Easter eggs and just picking up on tiny details, and that's also something that a mystery has to include.
Right.
And the more dedicated the fan base, the more dedicated the reader or member of that universe, the more they're going to be perceptive to those types of clues. And that's a really exciting readership to write to because, I mean, I would argue you're hard pressed to find a more dedicated readership than that. So it's
right.
exciting. I love writing mysteries. The only challenge is there are so many times I've wanted to go back and I wish I could have added that in earlier, in the first book or something. But that just kind of challenges me more to pull a thread from the second, and work that one instead. So it's fun.
And then for Carly Ann and Cassandra, what level of involvement did Tiny Build and Microsoft have as you were going through your process?
Tiny Build's been amazing. They've given me almost complete free reign. They have certainly some concepts that they want included, but for the most part, I was like, what about this? Okay. What if we did? What if? And every time I thought I was pushing it a little too far, they're like, nah, that's fine. Go for it. Okay. They've been awesome.
Yeah. So Microsoft with Halo, they have a lot of canon, obviously, that they need to preserve. And so a lot of their involvement was in kind of helping me maintain that canon. Like I did a lot of the work myself by going to halopedia.com. But there's only so much that I could do. So they would give me a lot of feedback and suggestions. So if something didn't quite work within canon, they were like, hey, you can kind of shape it, and then your basic idea will still work within the framework we've already set up. They also helped me with something that I always have trouble with, which is the ships and the weapons and whatnot. Those kinds of details never stick with me in anything. I'm a big fan of whether it's Star Wars or Star Trek. I'm just not like a tech person. So they really helped me with that, which I actually really appreciated. I was really interested in like the characters and some of the sci-fi questions. So they let me explore that kind of to my heart's content, and then they're like, okay, here's the ship that you want to have them flying. So that was really cool too.
Yeah, I think your job was harder than mine in that respect, for sure, because Hello Neighbor is so much newer, and they were just very cool about letting me kind of expand that universe and just blow it out however I wanted to. I did not have the level of canon that you were working with. That's intense.
Well, the cool thing was they actually gave me like unpublished. I'm not sure if I was supposed to say this. They gave me unpublished canon, so it was like stuff that they had worked up behind the scenes, but hadn't officially been published anywhere. So I got to pull from that when I was working on the book, which that was actually really, really fun to do.
That is awesome. I really appreciate the fact that they help you with descriptions of ships and weapons and stuff, because that really worked for me. Reading it, I remember like Tom Clancy novels. I used to skip past all the troop movements and like descriptions and stuff because it was too technical. But it really helped me to understand the difference between the weapons that they had and the aliens had, and the differences of all the ships and stuff. So, for still talking about Halo, Battleborn, this is the first novel that was created specifically for a young adult audience. How is the world of Halo, distinct for teenagers, as you've imagined it?
So, I mean, the Halo world as it kind of existed outside of this book does feel like a very adult world. I mean, it's it's a military science fiction. So it's very military oriented. The characters in the video games tend to be adults. But so the way I kind of approached it was I was like, so there's this big war going on. There's this big military presence, and these teenagers, they're aware of it, but they're separate from it. They're kind of living their own lives. So it was really fun to kind of think about, okay, how much are they going to know, which is not a lot. They're just normal civilians. How are they going to perceive things that we, as people are familiar with the game, how are they going to perceive? Like, how are they going to perceive the Spartans? Like, how are they going to think about these things? So it was really fun to kind of play with like the rumors they would have, the ideas they would have, and then contrast with the reality of it as they discover and learn new things. So that was kind of how I approached it. But it was actually really fun because it felt like I got to look at a part of the game that I had never really thought about, playing it all the time in college, which was like just this sort of civilian life and what it's like just kind of going through your life, normal life, every day, going to school, having friends, all that stuff, going to concerts, and there's this giant war going on, and these aliens are trying to annihilate your species. Like, what is that like? So that was kind of how I thought about it.
All right, so talking a little bit about RWBY, which I haven't had a chance to read, but I just saw some of the anime. Well, one of the best things about reading is it allows fans to get into the heads of the characters that they love and walk a mile in their shoes. As RWBY's voice, is there anything going on in RWBY's head that us fans should know?
Oh gosh. Do you have like an hour?
We have 30 minutes.
Perfect. For me, thinking about like how RWBY would interact or think about a lot of things that are happening in relation to the novel, obviously we said that this surrounds or focuses on Team Coffee. The center of plot focus is after the fall of Beacon and onwards. So obviously, if for anyone who has watched the show, no spoilers, but RWBY has to deal with a lot of very adult themes afterwards, mostly dealing with grief, loss, trying to rebuild herself as a person and as a team leader as well. So this does play into the book, from what I've been told. Again, I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I'm excited to do so. But it kind of delves a little bit more into the interaction with RWBY and Team Coffee itself. Along with that, I know we're going to be looking at Baguio for the first time, which is very exciting. Ruby has been told about said location and would like to visit. I don't think she's been there herself. And we've had interactions with characters from Shade Academy, but now we get to delve more into that as well.
And so for After the Fall, it's going to feature Team Coffee, as you've been talking about, and Two Ruby's going to make an appearance in flashbacks. Who's your favorite member of Team Coffee?
Ooh, oh God.
And then
start some
follow favorite member, follow-up is, who do you think Ruby connects with most?
Okay. But personally, as a fan, I really love Velvet. I think she's just a sweetheart. And as, again, a video game nerd, I'm like, you're Mega Man. Like, you have everybody else's power that you absorb. Now you get to use it. That's so exciting. And I think that the Ruby actually has the best interactions with Velvet and probably relates to her the most. Especially within the show, Ruby has a very big sense of like sensitivity and empathy towards other people. Early on in the show, you learn, or it's very clear that Velvet is a Faunus, which is a discriminated race in the world that she lives in. And Ruby really connects with Velvet in a lot of her reception with people giving her like negative vibes or just being straight up discriminatory. So they kind of bond together in this place of weakness in order to gain strength together.
And then third question on Ruby.
Sure.
So Ruby's lucky to have a really passionate, dedicated fan base. I noted a giant banner out there. Without revealing too much, what are some of the details for After the Fall that you're okay to tell us fans about?
Ooh, like I said, it does take place after the fall of Beacon, and for anyone that has watched the show, that's like volume 3 onward. Again, no spoilers. We have characters that have literally died during that point, so it's taking that theme of loss and moving forward with it and seeing how they react to the events that have happened, and then also kind of establishing themselves as protectors of the world as well as we approach these new obstacles that are coming. We have this evil force that's building up throughout the series and really hits its peak at volume 3 too, and it's still building. So now Team Coffee separately has to decide, okay, how do we want to tackle this? Are we going to try and hit this evil force full on, or are we going to be more of like, well, for lack of a better term, like Spider-Man? We're going to stay here in our local area and make sure these people are taken care of. You guys can handle the main issue. Yeah.
All right, and so now I'm going to bounce back to Chloe, ask you some publisher questions. Tell us a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about the process of creating a book that's based on a video game property? And these guys were telling us a little bit about, what it's like with the constrictions as far as when they're actually tasked with it. But on your end, how do you decide which properties would make a good book?
So we have the coolest thing ever at Scholastic, which is an internal gaming task force, where it's all of the gamers from around the company from all different departments. There's designers, there's people in our clubs department, in our fairs department, and we all get together once a month and we talk about the games that we're really excited to play. And it's just kind of us in a room for an hour evaluating what we want to go after. And especially for me, specifically when I'm looking at a game and deciding, can this, are we there for a publishing program? I'm really looking at, is there lore that people want to know about? Is there lore, especially like in Five Nights at Freddy's, you get, like in the first game specifically, like you get snippets of lore through like a newspaper article that appears at 3 a.m. on Wednesday, or day 3. So it's like for that, I'm really looking for like lore that we can like dig into. And then I'm also really looking for like a passionate fan base that surrounds it. And I feel like that's sort of something that we've gotten in all of our publishing so far, is a really dedicated fan base who really wants to read more and wants to know more about the universe.
Now, I lost sleep with these Five Nights at Freddy's. This is my next question specifically about that one. And, from the first book, like page 2, I was like, no, don't go there. Don't open that door. Don't go in that closet. Why are you going to that house by yourself? And then I determined that I need to read these books in the clear light of day. So it's not to have the nightmares I used to with Stevie King, reading till 3 in the morning. But as a fan of that game, the game, what is it like to edit the books?
It's amazing. I like to think I have the coolest job in the world. When I was initially hired at Scholastic, I was actually hired to work on Harry Potter, which I still do, and it's still a lot of fun. But early on, I also had the opportunity to work with Scott Cawthon on Five Nights at Freddy's, and it's been so amazing. He's incredibly kind and thoughtful with how he plots everything. Everything is really geniusly plotted, and sometimes there are things where I'm like, wait, what are you doing? And then like 6 months later, I'm like, oh my God, I get it. And it's been a really amazing experience. And that kind of holds true for every game that I've had the opportunity to work on and acquire. I mean, I got to meet Jeff Kaplan at the Overwatch League Finals, which was like a crowning moment in my life. And meeting, like, oh my gosh, we went to Austin to meet with Miles and Carrie while writing RWBY. And I just have had incredible experiences with these developers. They're like, people in games are like the best people in the world. So.
Awesome. All right, so final questions that I'm gonna, anybody can go in any order. Want to know what's next for the properties that you're working on? So we'll start with...
So this is coming out in next year, January, and then I have a sequel to this book coming out as well. That kind of pushes it a little further and lets me explore the world a little bit more. I can't say a whole lot without spoiling everything, so I'm being purposely vague. But that's kind of what I'm going to be working on.
I mean, like I said, Volume 6 for RWBY's coming out this month. Actually, very excited for that. And although it is not confirmed, I would think that this couldn't be the only way that RWBY immerses itself into a literature format. So I would think, hopefully, there will be more adult novels, maybe focusing on other themes as well. Yeah.
So Hello Neighbor 1 came out at the end of August. 2 is coming out December.
Oh yeah,
End of December. And then
the third one.
The third one. Well, obviously the third one is coming out.
I think that's July.
Okay, yeah, July.
So can I ask a follow-up with that? Are we still going to be in prequel mode with that, or it's not going to overlap? Oh, you can say, fifth. I played the fifth. Okay, let's go.
I'm not sure what I can say.
All right.
I think you can tell me it overlaps with the very beginning of the first game, the third book. Yes. What Chloe's always saying.
That's fine.
I'm so sorry. I'm trying to be difficult.
Keep everybody on their toes.
It's true. And then for me, I can just say we just had Five Nights at Freddy's: The Fourth Closet come out. I'm not sure if I think it's been announced, but there's going to be an updated edition of the guidebook, The Freddy Files, coming next summer. So you guys, fans, pick that up. And then we have some new gaming properties we're publishing into. We're publishing into Bendy and the Ink Machine next summer, which we're really excited. I feel like I have like the trinity of horror with Freddy, Neighbor, and Bendy. So yeah. So and then for anyone who doesn't know, in addition to Halo, aside from the YA series Cassandra's working on, we also did the official Spartan Field Manual is coming out. It came out last week. And that's the first in-world Spartan handbook that Microsoft has done. So yay.
Thank you, everybody. All right, so we have some time for questions. See if anybody here has anything you would like to ask any of the authors or editor. There's a mic right there in the back. Or you could show.
Hi, it's me, Curtis.
Hey, Curtis.
Lindsay Jones, you may know me.
I was going to say you look very familiar, so this is...
Yes, I'll bring the cookies tomorrow.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah, don't eat everyone's cookies, please. So, actually, I've been doing some writing, and I'm still doing my sketch artworks for, well, I'm not an artist, but at least I'll try to find someone who can do commission for it. So, I've been trying to figure out how should, like, an amateur writer like myself, like, be in, like, school in publishing books like that. I mean, like, should I just show my stories online to my blog, or should I do it on Twitter or from a fish or Instagram or something like that?
Great question.
Yeah.
There are other aspiring writers in the room. I'm curious.
Do you guys want to start, or do you want me to start? You guys have actually been through it.
It's like you
So I feel like for me, I'm the editor, so I get to see it when it's like gone through a few rounds.
I mean, for as many books and as many writers as there are out there, there are that many paths to publishing. So I would say first and foremost, don't let anybody tell you you can't or you shouldn't or it's not possible, because it is, and you should, and absolutely, you're awesome for doing it. I'm of two minds. On the one hand, I think, blogs can be really great, but I'm also like, your work is precious. You should protect it, which would make me say I would encourage you to seek out an agent and pursue publishing in that respect. But if you're looking to kind of build up a readership first, a fan base, or if you're trying to entice an illustrator to work with you, then the best way to do that and to solicit that kind of partnership might be to post something online through like Medium or some sort of interface in that respect. But I would say just first and foremost, like, protect your work because it's precious and you should go for it. Do it.
Yeah, my sister said that, and I should have listened to that first advice because my sister and my dad always criticize my work a lot.
No, keep at it. Keep at it. No.
Okay.
I will say also, like, there are a lot of like things that are really valuable with writing too, is like read all the time. That's like always the advice I give aspiring authors is read all the time. That's like the best way to keep your work fresh is to read other voices that you like and to learn from them and like learn, you can get a lot of good education about like writing through reading and like figuring out things like pacing and character development, and especially for genres like mystery and horror where they have an arc, they have a build to them. There's like a lot of things like that you can learn through reading. And then also it's really important to have like a writing group, which I know Carly has a really great writing group.
Love my writing group.
Just people to like read your work and give you feedback and say to you, this is your strength, play to this, and this you need to work on, so maybe rethink this. There's like a lot of really great ways. And then I also encourage you to seek out an agent, because that's not a lot of people cannot review unsolicited work. It's like a legal concern for us, so we have to acquire things through agents. So it's tricky, but I know there are some people out there that are like, just submit to publishers, and I'm like, no, submit to agents, submit to the agents. So yeah.
Okay, that's a good idea. Just find a good agent, which I'm probably gonna have trouble with that one.
Oh well, wait, I can give you some.
Yeah, I was gonna throw in some
my favorite trick is find all your favorite books, go to the acknowledgement section. Everyone acknowledges their agent, unless they have a bad agent, in which case you don't want to work with them.
Okay, that makes sense.
That is a great
author.
I was going to add to that one of my favorite books about, I'm a librarian, so 2 book recommendations. My favorite one about writing, Stephen King, on writing. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's in the horror thriller genre, but he's so good. And that book is one of the best books I've ever read about writing. And then there's a book called Literary Marketplace. It's specific to everything we're publishing. I'm not sure like how distinct stuff is. It might be specific to comics or anything like that. But in general, that book is published every year, and it tells you, all of the different publishers, magazines, journals, how to submit to each of them. It has an index of agents and stuff like that. So, if you looked in the back of a book that you liked and saw the agent pops up a lot at a lot of the different books that you're enjoying and stuff like that, you might be able to find their contact info in a place like Literary Marketplace. It's expensive, so go to the library then.
Okay.
Publishers Marketplace too is an online database. It's also kind of expensive. It's $20-something, I think, a month to subscribe to it, but it has a very updated and searchable database.
You can also see what editors are acquiring in your genre, so that if you do get an agent, you can say, I noticed these people are publishing the kind of book that I want to write, so can we approach them with my manuscript after you get your agent?
Okay.
All right.
I'll keep writing, and hopefully it'll come out okay.
Yes. Fight the good fight.
All right, thank you.
Hi. First, I just want to say congratulations, Lindy, on the baby.
Oh, thanks.
Sorry, surprise if nobody knew. But I just had a question. So my boyfriend graduated with an English degree, and he likes to dabble in writing, but he really wants to get into editing. So I know with writing, you can find an agent and kind of submit your work that way. How do you really break into the editing field? Like, he's applied to a couple places, but hasn't really heard back. Like, is there a certain thing that he should be doing that can pass along information?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you when I came into the industry like 8 years ago, you didn't really need a master's degree to become an editor. But as the industry moves forward and editor jobs are more in demand, a lot of people now go get a master's of publishing, which you can get at, I don't know if you are local, but NYU and Columbia run publishing courses. Some of them are only over a summer. The master's programs are a lot longer than the certificate courses that run a summer, but a lot of people I know, the thing about the master's program and the certificate program is it puts you directly in touch with editors in the business, so you network really well in those programs, and I have a lot of friends who came to publishing through that. Also, it's a lot of, just sometimes it's just the right place at the right time. But I can also say, leveraging connections is really important. You can work connections at a lot of writing conventions, even here at Comic-Con. I also don't recommend cold emails, but I have met some people through cold emails on LinkedIn and given them advice that later ended up serving them. So it's tough. Editing is a really tough business to break into. Not as tough as writing, but it's still a very tough business to break into. But yeah, no, I love my job. It's a really great job.
We can speak a little bit more to it also, but I've heard from people who work in writing or editing positions, they say sometimes workshops also help, or any type of like community college courses. That, again, just leveraging that networking as you're making those connections that you can utilize later. So.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. A lot of it's really all about networking.
Thank you. Oh, one other kind of part to it. For editing, is there a certain thing, kind of like, with genre, certain publishers are looking to publish certain genres. For editors, is there like certain fields that are kind of like, if he really loves like mysteries and, horror things, is there a certain publisher that he should, there's certain different publishers he can kind of look for to edit that specific material? Yeah, the way publishers are structured is we have different imprints, and generally different imprints focus on different things. So I'm sure most of you people know like Tor and Del Rey and Saga. Those are like the sci-fi fantasy imprints at different publishing houses. So if you look for specific publishing houses, you can find their website, you can find their catalog, you can find a list of like books that they publish, and because I know some corners of the industry, like licensing is a very specific corner of the industry that every publishing house has a licensing imprint. But yeah, my best advice is to look for the imprints and see if they publish. And that's actually a very good way, like if you get through to an interview, talk about the list and talk about, how you feel like you can contribute to building a meaningful list. Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tomas Hernandez from This Planet. I wanted to ask if there is any new plan for books about World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo, or Overwatch.
Yeah, so World of Warcraft, we're publishing the third book in the Traveler series next fall. So that's going to be coming out, and we have a really exciting author that I can't tell any of you about. And it's really great, and I've got the manuscript due in like 2 weeks. So that's really exciting, and we have some new stuff going on with Blizzard that I can't say what property it's for, but I'm really excited about it.
How soon can we hear about it?
Probably. Oh man, maybe in probably March, May.
Excuse me, how soon? Trademark.
Sorry.
Wait, say that again, what was that? How soon trademark?
Oh, trademark.
Do we have any other questions? Thank you. I can wait.
Okay, no one's taking questions. I'll take another one. Thank you. Oh, Lindsay. So how's Iris doing?
She's fine. For anyone who's not familiar, Iris is my daughter, so she's good. Not reading yet.
Okay.
She's got like colors down. Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty exciting. But yeah, she's good. Thank you for asking. Appreciate it.
Still like Miraculous Ladybug?
Yes, actually. Yeah. Yes, thank you. That's amazing.
Okay. Oh, that's good.
I'm all about Magic Girl.
Magic Girl's the best.
Magic Girl is the Sailor V phone.
Nice.
I am there.
I actually, thank you. I have a question. Being a librarian, what are you guys reading on, aside from these projects in general? What's the last book that you read that just captivated you?
Currently, I still got to finish it. I was reading on the thing right over, but I'm in the middle of Bossy Pants, Tina Fey's book, which is awesome. And like, just for me, it's a little bit of kick of like female empowerment. Like, yeah, I'm gonna make it in this world. But again, it's just kind of funny thinking about Iris, since you just mentioned her. There's a series of books. I think it's called Goddess Girls or Greek Goddess Girls.
Yes.
And so yeah. And I'm a huge mythology nerd, so that's why I named her Iris. And I was like, okay, well maybe one day I'll read this to her. And it's. I enjoy it because it is a mythological inspiration for the characters clearly, and there is actual lore in the books, but it's played into this high school drama element. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh no, Zeus is grounding us today. Dang it! That's kind of fun. So, and hopefully we'll pull in. I like books like that are structured that way too. That will pull in audience members that maybe weren't interested in the subject matter at hand, mythology, that's kind of intimidating, or Shakespeare comes to mind. I know there are adaptations of Romeo and Juliet or plays like that where they make it a little bit more colloquial. So I really enjoy those.
Two on my immediate to-read list right now are Nova Rensuma's latest, A Room Away from the Wolves. I just love her. She's got strong female protagonists and just really spooky, eerie, Shirley Jackson-ish stories. And then I have not read Victor LaValle's The Changeling yet, and I love Victor LaValle so much. He was a really awesome mentor for me way back. So definitely want to read that one too.
The newest one that he came out with?
I think it is the latest, and I thought he was working on something else more recently, but I don't think it's come out yet, but yeah.
I bought it, I haven't read it.
Yeah, exactly, that's right. That's where I'm at too.
The last book that I read was The Fisherman. I don't remember who wrote it. It was a horror novel. It was sort of a Lovecraftian horror thing about a fisherman. Surprisingly.
I'm about to start a comic book called Days of Hate. The United States of America 2022 near future. We got another question?
You want to talk? Okay, you go first.
Go ahead.
Hi. I was wondering, what is your dream franchise to, in each case, write, edit, or act in?
Oh my god. So this, I don't know if this is going to date me at all. Probably not. Hopefully people will know. So in the 90s, there was this thing called Animorphs.
Yeah, it's a Scholastic series.
Yes, it was. I know there was I'd go to the book fair and be like, where are they? Where are the Animorphs books? They made a TV series for it. It ran on Nickelodeon for a little bit. It kind of had mixed reception, but man, if they revamped that, I'm all about it. Absolutely.
Duly noted.
I can say for me, two things. I love Steven Universe, and I'm obsessed with it. And if I could edit Steven Universe and bring it over to my list, I would do it immediately. Also, obviously Sailor Moon. I've been obsessed with that as a child, and it's so good. And I watched all of Crystal, and then the redubs, and I'm just that's why I go to anime conventions. And also. I left my brain. Horizon Zero Dawn. I've just been really loving playing as Aloy, and the open world is just, oh my god, it's so good. And so empowering. I feel so empowering, killing a raccoon for food, and I don't know, I feel really empowered by it.
You got the armor?
The art? No, I'm not that far in yet. Because I'm a completionist, and I am still. I just got into the Second Kingdom, and I've been playing for 30 hours. Really? Oh my god, it's so good. I'm sorry. No offense to. I love raccoons. Happy animals, but virtual ones.
Cassandra, did you have one?
Yeah, I would love to write Aliens / Predator, like that whole giant universe. That's always been my dream.
Okay, so are you an alien or an aliens person?
They're too different for me to choose one
Thank
or
you.
the other.
That's the best answer you can give. Good job. Yes. One is an action movie and one is a monster movie. Yes.
There was a video game that I read about when you approached me, thinking I didn't know if it was Neighbor or this one, and I can't remember the name of it now. This is going to be the most vague answer ever because I can't remember the name, and it was something about a house that there's a new story basically that you're writing about this haunted house, and it's this historic house that's on a cliff and it falls into the ocean. I'm like, I don't know. What is it?
Edith Finch.
That's it.
I know stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. I would have been Googling that for hours after this. Yes, that's the one. Edith Finch. It looked amazing. It's very gothic.
Got a really great cover.
Yeah.
Thank you. Most of you can answer too.
Oh man. What are you doing? I don't know. I'll think about it and see if I can come up with something good.
Jeff has a question?
Maybe
I have a question.
Mighty Ducks.
I like some Hellraiser novels.
All 80s. I'll submit that. I'll get the literary marketplace and write my novels. All right, maybe a new question? Yeah.
Yeah, first off, Alien Resurrection forever. Just kidding. So I'm gonna get all heavy because I do that. Trolls suck, and toxic dude trolls were the worst. One thing I love about this imprint is how women-driven it is, and wondering from each of you how you feel about how this kind of combats the myth of the fake gamer girl and kind of what it means for this turning point for women.
Oh my god. Let me tell you, if I could count, if I had a dime for the number of times I've been gatekept through the years. I think I totally agree. There's a lot of toxicity in the gaming space, and it's really not okay. And I think most female gamers can associate with muting your microphone when you go into a match, because it's just not cool what gets thrown at you. Yeah. And I mean, that's so much a part of what we're doing with AFK. I mean, my designer on the series, who's not here today, but her name is Betsy. She's a phenomenal graphic novelist. She's also a huge gamer. I think 8 out of the 12 people on our gaming task force are women. We have all of these women here. We have a lot of female authors, a lot of female influencers around our initiative, and we're just really trying to open up this space and smash the stereotype that all gamers are dudes, and that if you're a girl gamer, you're not real.
I think it's also breaking the stigma. I mean, not just video game focus, but writing focus as well. Yeah. I mean, I hate to use a very generic example that I'm sure everyone knows, but as recent as J.K. Rowling, they're like, well, publish yourself as J.K. Rowling because then they won't know what gender you are. Mm-hmm. Like, that sucks. It sucks that we're still dealing with this. So again, now we're blending these two areas, which are thought as male-dominated, and going, okay, we're here, we've been here for quite some time, and now we're going to make sure our voices are heard.
Preach.
I think that is a wonderful note to end on. It really, kind of brings home what, we're trying to present to you today and we're trying to do with AFK at Scholastic. So I would like to thank all of our presenters, authors, editor, everybody for coming, all of you. Thank you. And, we look forward to the debut of, RWBY coming out, and Halo and Battleborn. You can read, did I get all the Hello Neighbor, Halo, RWBY, all coming soon, and then 5 Nights at Freddy's is supposed to be really out. So thank you, everybody, and have a great day.